Hello learners, welcome to our course of Tribal Entrepreneurship and Economics. Today in Module 4, this is your third lecture on SWOT analysis related tribal entrepreneurship. We have dealt with the SWOT analysis in the previous lecture. In this lecture, we will explore SWOT analysis in detail and will likely to take certain examples as well. As I have mentioned that in previous chapters, we have taken the idea of what is SWOT analysis, and now in this chapter, we are dealing with it in the context of tribal entrepreneurship along with certain examples. So, before going in detail, let me again recapitalize of idea of SWOT analysis, where the S is for strength and W is for weakness, which are basically considered as the internal element of the organization, which likely means that these factors are basically from the internal aspects of the businesses. A business may have certain strengths, at the same time a business may have certain weaknesses. Similarly, the other two aspects are opportunities and threats, which are actually external elements and which are not developed by the businesses and may be impinged on these businesses from the outer environment, and businesses have to deal with it. Now, let me see the strengths for a tribal business, and here the first aspect is strong cultural identity and traditions. We know that the tribal community have different types of cultural traditions and cultural identities, which is quite visible from their tribal art, designs and tribal jewelries. Here is an example of tribal jewelry from the Nagaland area, and if we see that even from the 7 northeastern states, almost all types of tribal population have certain uniqueness in their tribal jewelry. They use to prepare their jewelry using the corals, glass beads, shells and animal bones, and everywhere they use it in a different mode. And for the tribal business, this uniqueness is an strength, because despite being these tribal jewelry, tribal art, tribal design, they are different from other tribal communities as well. We can simply compare it by seeing that the tribal art of northeastern area is quite different from the tribal art of the Chhattisgarh area. The second point is tight-knit community bonds. Here, this point suggests that since the most of the workers are actually the family members of that particular tribal clan, so the problems related to labor are very less likely to occur, because these are the family members. They also work in such a way that only a quality product can be developed and be sold out in the outer world. In this way, they do their best for the betterment of the organization, the tribal business here, and this is naturally can considered as one of the strength for the tribal entrepreneurship. The next is access to ancestral knowledge and wisdom. As I have said that maybe the tribal belts are producing similar kind of products, but still they are different from each other because they have learned of developing these products through their ancestral wisdom, and ancestral wisdom is not a written wisdom, so they somehow are little bit different from each others. We can see this that the products of Manipur may not be as similar as of Tripura and as of Meghalaya, while all these states are at the nearby vicinities. Not only this, one study which I have mentioned here, done by C.P. Kala sir on traditional ecological knowledge, it suggested that the Pachmadi Biological Reserve, which is in the Madhya Pradesh state, has actually access to thousands of acres of lands, and encompass 3 different types of wildlife reserves. There, they are doing their tribal business with their natural vegetation and not hampering the natural conservation, not hampering their natural environment there. From time old wisdom, they are conserving their nature and effectively performing the sustainable management practices. Next point is natural resources on tribal lands. It suggests that the tribal lands have the strength of the natural resources probably only available to their own area. 2 different types of tribal lands may have different types of vegetations, different types of minerals and different type of medicinal plants, and so they can do different way of businesses without hampering the businesses of others, and this give them the strength of performing the business activities in a unique fashion. The next point is cultural heritage attracts tourism. This point has been drawn from number of studies. One such study is popularly mentioned here, done by Himjul Kumar Roy sir of Guwahati, who have mentioned that the Arunachal Pradesh state can largely be developed using the tourism practices. He identified that the flora and fauna of Arunachal Pradesh is so rich, their tribal cultural heritage is so rich that the tourist can easily be attracted to their locations. And not only this, if we see that all the 7 sister states have this possibility of having this showcasing of cultural heritage through different types of festivals. Some of the festivals are mentioned here, like cultural festivals of Sikkim, festivals of Arunachal, 100 Drum Festival of Meghalaya and perennial festivals of Nagaland. You can see the number of pictures here. These are showing their differences also and their diversity also. Here you can identify that through these festivals, large number of tourists can be attracted, and on the basis of this, by showing the cultural heritage also, this tribal business can pick up their strength. The perennial festival of Nagaland actually says that throughout the year, some types of festivals are being run over there, and the most promising festival is Hornbill Festival, which is being organized in the first 15 days of December. After talking about the strengths of the tribal businesses, let us see what types of weaknesses a tribal business may have. As we know that the tribals are basically living in those areas which are either hilly or distant in forest reserves, and hence in both the ways these are not very easily accessible. Even the road development has not taken place to their area, and actually these makes them unique for the development of different types of vegetations there and doing the business out of those vegetations. So the first weakness is the same, which is saying that limited access to modern infrastructure and technology. It is true that despite being 75 years of independence, not all the infrastructure has reached to these areas, and in certain way, thanks to the government for that, otherwise their cultural heritage, their cultural disparity could have been mixed up with the modern business environment. But here, because of these deficiency, this is actually added advantage for their tribal businesses. But yes, it is the duty of the government that a basic formal education system, a basic healthcare system must be reaching to each of the areas, and the government is doing very best of it into that. Next point is socioeconomic disparities within the community. Since the road access is limited, hence these tribal communities are actually dealing different types of problems and different types of advantages as well from the socio-economic point of view. Since they are cut off from the different communities, they have different behavior, they have different fooding habits, and by this way they could be developing a different type of socio-economic culture into them. This is being considered as weakness, but at certain case it is also possible because of these socio-economic disparities that these tribal belts are living in their own ideas and may be producing different types of products which are good for tribal businesses. The third point is dependence on external funding or support. As we know that even the micro and small businesses running nearby the cities require certain kind of fundings, and the government is helping them by providing a small loan using Mudra Yojana or some other Yojana. The same is the case with the tribal population. For tribal businesses, a funding requirement would be little higher because procurement of product from the distant forests, preserving them for a longer duration, bringing them to the market is again cost consuming affair, and tribal people do not have that much amount. But government is providing maximum types of facilities from finance, from support, from logistics to these businesses. It is true that despite of governmental efforts, maximum of the tribal belts have less knowledge how to apply for these facilities through the government channels. The next point is lack of formal education and vocational training opportunities. At one point, it is true that the traditional knowledge of tribal belts should be kept as such, but at the same time, a formal basic education and certain types of trainings will also help them to develop their tribal businesses at a good length. For example, a tribal business can reap benefits if it is planned in a better way. But the idea of planning they may not have. They only have the idea of that what type of raw material they have, what type of natural product, natural resource they have, which can be purchased by the outside customer. But how to make them at a scale, how to reach them to the higher audience, higher customer base, this all to be learned, and for this learning a basic education system will be required. The next point is vulnerability to exploitation of resources or cultural appropriations. This is really a tough task that at one place we are talking about that tribal businesses should come out and should hand in hand with the society. But as soon as they come with the alignment of society, either the big business houses try to exploit them by paying them in a cheaper amount, or maybe using their excellence in their mechanized way of preparation of the product. Not only this, by mixing of these cultures, the cultural heritage may be at the deterioration phase. So this is one such area where we see a weakness which should be cleared. Now, as I have said about the strength and weaknesses, which are the internal factors of tribal business, and it should be somehow controlled by the tribal population itself. Now, let us see what are the opportunities available to the tribal business. The first one, earlier it was mentioned as the weakness that they may have less access to the financial cooperations. Here it is an opportunity that government provides different types of grants and number of schemes are being run for the tribal welfare. Not only this, not only for their tribal welfare, but to boost their tribal business as well. Also, governments are now looking forward to provide the basic infrastructures nearby to their area. They may not be reaching to their vast land which are covered through forest or maybe the hilly area, but to the nearby locations from where they can access the basic education and healthcare. By this way, both the opportunities may come that the raw materials and the finished goods can easily be provided to the nearby these accessible land, and from there these products can be sold out to the larger scale in India and abroad. Second point is partnership with NGOs and other business houses. It may possible that sometimes government may not be reaching to those locations where the tribal businesses may occur, which can be encouraged and which can go into the scale. There, some non-governmental organizations and some business houses may support these tribal belts to develop the products through their traditional knowledge and helping them in packaging and marketing of those products to the different ways of the societies. There are two examples mentioned in this slide. One is Swasti and other is Balaji Seva Sansthan, which are actually two such NGOs which are helping tribal businesses to provide their products from one location to other. Not only this, there are certain businesses which may be doing their business for the profit purpose, but somehow helping the tribal community. For an example, there is one such small company named as Honey and Spice, which is providing raw honey from the forest area, which is actually procured by the tribal population, and now they are also providing different types of spices which are developed from natural vegetation and have no adulteration before preparing them. The next point is ecotourism. As we have discussed that tourism is one such strength which the tribal business can grow. With the advent of urban populations, we see that the air quality and the water quality are deteriorating in the urban cities, and so the tribal business can be developed in such a way where a tourism packages can be proposed for those areas which are ecologically best suited for their well-being, and also with the scenic beauties to be taken care of. And with this way, they can grab the opportunity of turning the tourism from only the snowy area, from only the ocean-based area to those forest and unexplored area of India itself, from where the tribal population can do a business and can also sell those products which are available to their locality. The fourth opportunity is advocacy of indigenous rights. It means that once a tribal businessman becomes popular at certain extent, he or she may lead to different types of national and international bodies to advocate their rights of their land and their business. And by this way, they might be helping their community to preserving their time-old wisdom, along with not hampering to their locations by urbanization. After talking about the opportunities, let's we talk about the threats for tribal businesses. The very problematic and maybe the most difficult to handle threat is the encroachment on tribal lands. As I have said, that if a tribal business has to become a profitable, it has to go into scale, and once it has to go into scales, it has to meet to number of business minds, business houses, and once the business houses will pick up their benefit out of these tribal products, they may try to access their land and their traditional knowledge, which may be an encroachment into their areas. Since these business houses have larger pool of capital and they have some influences over the government, they actually hampers the original idea of doing business with the tribals. Rather, they do away the tribal population from there and explore and extract as much of as natural vegetations that they may do. This is really a problem, that encroachment of tribal areas should not be done in any way. Next is loss of cultural identity. The main problem is once the tribal business is being circulated all over, it has to talk to number of people, number of other persons of different cultural ideas, and there start the chances of mixing of the cultural. And maybe not in a day, maybe not in a year, but generation by generation, the cultural identity can be lost by these tribal businesses. So one at hand, we need to identify that how these cultural identities can be preserved along with doing the tribal business. Next point is environmental degradation and pollution. We are blaming the business houses only, but once the tribal business will pick up and more of the demand will come, there may be a chance that even the tribal business houses, even the tribal entrepreneur may try to extract as much of as natural vegetation, so to increase their sales and to increase their profit. And there is a chance of environmental degradation because of the overutilization of such natural resources. And not only this, once this started, there is a chance of increase in pollution into the those green area which are serving the cleaner environment to the tribal belts. We have discussed one idea of Malki practice in the previous lecture, where it was suggested in the Gujarat area that if a tribal population has to cut one tree, they actually have to grow 3 saplings earlier, so that only then a permission of cutting one tree will be permitted. By this way, these types of their own rules can give them access, can give them benefit to develop the business also without hampering their vegetation, without hampering their environment, and without much polluting the other areas. The fourth point is limited access to market. Earlier, the idea of market was one physical location where the buyer and supplier can meet, and then the prices can take an action and the products or services can be sold out. With the advent of internet, now the physical part of market has gone and market can also be online. It is true that most of the tribal products are still available into those states only where they are grown up. I have this idea that one particular herb is being developed or being obtained from the Manipur area, which has a better cure for the headaches. You can just smell it and the headache will gone away. But the thing is that this herb may not be obtained from the other states. And if this particular herb can be provided to the different locations by proper sampling, by proper upkeep of these, this could be a better market for that type of herb. But I have seen this once only and have never seen neither in the offline market nor in the online market. We are talking about the threats of the limited access to the market, for which I have given this example. At the same time, now the governments are trying to develop their own portals to sell the tribal products from their own governmental aspects, and one such aspect of CMART was seen in our earlier discussion. Also, the TriFed, which is popularly known as Tribal Cooperative Marketing Development Federation of India, which is under the hands of Ministry of Tribal Affairs, is also doing such kind of activities through its website, that the tribal art, tribal jewelry and tribal designs may be made of metals, may be made of bamboos, can be purchased from their own website. So when we come across of all these SWOT analysis, we have seen that there are certain strengths into the tribal businesses. Naturally, there are weaknesses to the tribal businesses. These weaknesses can be turned out into the opportunities with a wider mix of planning and with the help of government and non-governmental organizations. And at the same time, there may be some threats for which the government should come out with a better resolutions and better ideas of preserving the land for the tribals itself. We all know that many of the states have already identified that the tribal land can only be sold and purchased among the tribals only. By this way, they actually use that the exploitation of land should not take place. But at the same time, we also need to understand that exploitation is not only from the outer population, but also the exploitation should not be done by the tribal community itself, and it should be beneficial for the overall community at large. We have seen a number of examples in the past, and number of the web series are also there, which are showing that the people among the tribals also hampered their own ideas of businesses, and unfortunately government has to make a ban on such type of businesses. We can say the one such example of the business of ivory, the other such example of business of sandalwood, and many such examples are there where the tribal population themselves have actually hampered their own business model by maximizing the use of natural resources, hampering the natural vegetation, and also hampering the traditional knowledge. In this way, we need to understand that the tribal belt should be, the tribal businesses should be so aligned that they have optimum use of the natural resources provided to them by the God himself, and by this sustainable development, their natural vegetation will always remain greener, their raw materials will always be available, and also their cultural heritage will be kept into their vicinity. Once again, I want to suggest that for tribal businesses, it is important that somewhere some of the tribal people have to come up to the society for the business mandate, but at the same time they should not mix up their cultural advantage with the other cultural societies, and by this way they can remain their cultural uniqueness intact, which can develop their business for a better future. Thank you. Thanks for today's class.